Here we got the steering knuckle on the shop press. And yeah, sometimes you got to get a little creative. I've been meaning to build myself some different I-beams that the hubs fit around. That would really help. But I got some wood stacked up and some press plates. Got this little piece of metal to even it out. Because sometimes these press out easy and sometimes they don't. Let's see what happens on this one. Try to center it a little bit. We'll call it good enough. We want to be as straight as possible. See, I was afraid it might start angling that press plate like that. I'm just going to keep on rolling with it though. Oh, the hub just broke free. This is stage one, getting the hub out. Looks like it might catch on that piece of wood there. There we go, and our hub is out. On these hubs, what likes to happen is these get stuck on there. The inside, I have a video on how to take those apart in my car repair playlist. But the kit came with a new hub and bearing. Paid the extra $15 or whatever, so I don't have to worry about extracting that. All right, we got that steering knuckle. We got a big socket that fits perfectly over the outside of the bearing race, so it presses it out. Moved up a peg on the shop press. And hopefully she comes out easy. That dust cover's getting bent a little bit. That's all right. It's all rusted. There she goes. And these really stiff ones, you can use a little heat to help. And there is a retaining ring to take out in between the hub and the wheel bearing. I got a video on taking them out too. And our bearing should just fall right down. There it goes. All right, we're all set to press this wheel bearing in. Put a little bit of grease on that wheel bearing, you know, just to help it slide. And we cleaned out that bore really well. I used my Dremel tool to clean out the really rusted part where the retaining ring goes in. I used the old wheel bearing to press the new wheel bearing in, then put a big socket over that. And the most important thing is to go real straight. Make sure you get your press real straight. Had to use just one press plate on the bottom to even it out. No press plate on the other side. I've had this Harbor Freight 20-ton shop press for years now. Still working like new. And the only thing I've done is bent up that I-beam a little bit, doing some stuff I shouldn't have, but I want to make multiple I-beams for this to fit different steering knuckles and whatnot. And this wheel bearing is pressing in real nice and smooth. Now that bearing's going to sit just underneath that retaining ring. And eventually you'll feel it get tight. You don't want to tighten down too much and crack the back of the steering knuckle out. And that is getting tight right there. She's all the way in. It helps to have different chunks of metal laying around. We got a couple things there, old wheel bearings, old balancer cones, but there we go, now the bearing's in. All right, we put our snap ring in. Goes right here. Now it's time to get the hub in. I just used that same thing and flipped it around, the socket and the bearing. But we need to straighten it. See, I'm a little off center here. I used a bearing cone from my bearing kit. You can use a bearing press kit as well to do this job. You can rent them from auto parts stores, but I've got a bunch of different little cones. So I'm going to straighten this up a little bit. Release the pressure a little. There we go. I did not start pressing it yet. Sorry about the camera right now. I'm just trying to straighten this cone out with one hand. There we go, that's a lot better. Now the big thing is get your press centered in that hub. You want to be nice and straight pressing this in. So I used that little cone so the inside of the bearing doesn't try to come backwards out. A little support. And it is pressing in like a dream. Super easy. Super straight. And that hub is going to bottom out on the inner race of the bearing. There we go, it just seated. And there we go. Now our steering knuckle's assembled. We can go back to the car. First thing we're going to do is put that steering knuckle on this ball joint and then feed the CV axle through. And then press that steering knuckle into place here. Put a bolt through the ball joint. Put the new axle nut on there loosely and start reassembling everything. Remember to check your torque specs on your axle nut. Parts store will tell you what that is, or you can look it up online. But there's always a torque spec. They can range from 75 to close to 300 foot-pounds. You never know. It'll cause premature bearing failure if you don't have the torque right.